The Iliad is the most famous account we have of the Trojan War. 10 years of fighting between the Greeks and the city of Troy. The poem ends before the war does, before the city falls, before the wooden horse, before its own greatest warrior even dies. In this video, we go through the actual events of the Iliad and why Homer chose to stop the story where he did, what that choice means, and why it was deliberate. Then we go further. What happens immediately after the Iliad ends, all the way through to the moment the Odyssey and Nolan's film actually begins. Picture the Greek camp on the shore of Troy, the morning the poem begins. It's the 10th year of the war. Nothing has been decided. The walls are still standing. Achilles, the greatest warrior alive, watches the High King Agamemnon's men walk out of his tent with a woman named Briseis. She was his war prize, and taking her back is Agamemnon's way of reminding every man in the camp who is really in charge. Achilles doesn't fight back. He sits down on the beach and he weeps. And then he does something far more devastating than violence. He quits. He pulls himself out of the war entirely and asks the gods to make the Greeks suffer without him, to make Agamemnon feel exactly what he's lost. This is where the Iliad begins, not at the start of the war, here in one man's fury, and the poem tells you that directly. The very first word of the Iliad, before Troy, before Agamemnon, before Helen, is a single Greek word, menace, wrath. Achilles' wrath, specifically, not the wars, not the gods, his. For the next several books, the Greeks pay for it. Good men die. Hector, Troy's best warrior, and by every account a decent man, drives the Greeks back toward their ships. And every one of those deaths traces back to a single cause: Achilles, sitting by his ships, refusing to fight. He knows this. He watches his friends die and doesn't move. Then his closest friend, Patroclus, can't stand it anymore. He puts on Achilles' own armor and goes out to fight in his place. For a moment it works, until Hector kills him. That changes everything. Achilles comes back into the war not to defend his pride, but to destroy something. He kills Hector. And then, in a detail Homer clearly wants you to find disturbing, he ties Hector's body to his chariot and drags it around Patroclus's grave. Every day, for 12 days. This is the wrath at full strength. Not the killing of Hector, but what Achilles does to the body afterward. Even the gods, watching from Olympus, are horrified. The poem isn't celebrating this. It's showing you exactly what rage costs. The gods finally step in. They send the god Hermes to lead Hector's father, the old king Priam, through the Greek camp at night, unseen, straight to Achilles' tent, to beg for his son's body back. Picture what Priam actually does. He doesn't send anyone to negotiate for him. He walks up to the man who killed his son, kneels down, and kisses the hands that did it. He says, "Think of your own father." And Achilles breaks, not into more rage, into grief. The two of them sit and weep together, an old king from a city about to fall, and a young warrior who already knows he's next. It's the one moment in the entire poem where two enemies see each other as simply human. Achilles gives the body back. He even promises 11 days of peace for the funeral. And that's where the poem ends. Not with Troy burning, not with the Greeks celebrating, with a funeral pyre being lit. That was a deliberate choice, and people noticed it almost immediately. The philosopher Aristotle writing a few hundred years later, praised Homer specifically for stopping here, for telling one story all the way through instead of trying to cram in the whole war. Other ancient poets tried to tell everything: Achilles' death, the horse, the fall of the city. Aristotle thought the result was a mess. Homer picked one thread and followed it to its end. Here's what makes that choice even sharper. Everyone listening to this poem in ancient Greece already knew the rest of the story. They knew Achilles would die soon after Hector. They knew about the horse. They knew Troy would burn. Homer wasn't withholding a surprise ending. He was making a point by refusing to show it. Achilles knew his fate too. Earlier in the poem, he tells a group of visitors sent to beg him back into the war that his goddess mother gave him a choice. Go home, live a long, quiet, forgotten life, or stay at Troy, die young, and be remembered forever. He chose Troy. That's the real weight behind everything that follows. Patroclus dies because Achilles stayed. Hector dies because Achilles stayed. And Achilles himself is about to die too, because, with full knowledge of what it would cost, he picked glory over survival. The poem ends at Hector's funeral because that's where its actual question gets answered. Who wins the war was never the point. So what happens between the last page of the Iliad and the first page of the Odyssey? The rest of the story survives only in fragments, later poems and summaries that ancient scholars piece together, but we know the shape of it. The first thing that happens is Achilles dies. An arrow, guided by the god Apollo, finds the one vulnerable spot on his body, his heel, fired by Paris, the least respected fighter in Troy. The greatest warrior in the Greek army is killed not in a fair fight, but from a distance, by the man everyone thought was a coward. His armor, famous, God-forged, the armor Patroclus had been wearing when he died, is now up for grabs. Two men want it, Odysseus and a massive Greek warrior named Ajax, widely seen as the strongest man left alive in the army and the obvious heir to Achilles' reputation. Ajax loses. The Greeks vote, and Odysseus's cleverness wins the argument that Ajax's brute strength couldn't. Something in Ajax breaks. One night, driven mad by the goddess Athena, he slaughters a flock of sheep, believing they're the commanders who voted against him. When the madness lifts and he sees what he's actually done. Dead livestock, not dead enemies. The humiliation is unbearable. He falls on his own sword. Achilles is dead. Now Ajax, the next strongest man, the one most like him, is dead too. Physical force has run its course twice, and Troy is still standing. Someone else is going to have to end this war. And by this point in the story, everyone knows exactly who that is. Odysseus is crouched inside a wooden horse, in the dark, inside the walls of Troy. A Greek spy convinced the Trojans the horse was a sacred offering, too big to fit through their gates on purpose, so the god Athena's protection could never leave the city. The Trojans believed it. They tore down part of their own wall to drag it inside. Odysseus and a handful of the best remaining Greek fighters are hiding inside it. At one point in that long night, a Trojan woman walks around the horse, calling out the names of the men inside, mimicking their wives' voices. One man nearly answers, nearly gives everyone away. Odysseus clamps his hand over the man's mouth and holds it there. That's how Troy actually falls. Not a sword. a hand over a mouth in the dark, and the patience to wait, using a method no one in the Iliad would have called honorable. That night, the hidden Greeks climb out, open the gates, and the rest of the army, which had only pretended to sail away, comes back. Troy burns. King Priam, the same old man who once knelt in Achilles' tent, is killed at a temple altar by Achilles' own son. Hector's wife, Andromache, and Troy's queen, Hecuba, are taken as slaves. Hector's infant son is thrown from the city walls, and when a Greek soldier named Ajax the Lesser, a different Ajax, assaults a Trojan priestess named Cassandra inside Athena's own temple, the goddess turns against the entire Greek fleet. Most of the men who survived 10 years of war are about to be wrecked on the voyage home, punished for a crime they didn't even commit. Odysseus sails away from the burning city. Home is impossibly far ahead, and 10 more years of wandering stand between him and it. That is exactly where the Odyssey begins, where Nolan's film begins. We've moved from a man on a beach watching his prize taken away, to 2 enemies weeping together at midnight, to a warrior falling on his own sword in a field of dead sheep, to a hand pressed over a mouth inside a wooden horse. Each image a different cost of the same war. Achilles knew he would die if he stayed at Troy. He chose to stay anyway. We're still saying his name 3,000 years later. So, was he right? There's a version of this same argument playing out in how we tell war stories today. The films and books that actually last from wars like Vietnam or Iraq are almost never the ones that end with a clear victory. They end with a soldier sitting alone, or a name being read off a wall, or someone who can't sleep. The war journalist Sebastian Junger makes exactly this point in his writing. The story that survives isn't about who won. It's about what it cost the people who were there. Homer worked that out 3,000 years ago and put it in the very first word. Next time, we go up to Olympus, the gods who steered every one of these deaths from above, and the one god in particular who's about to spend 10 years making sure Odysseus never makes it home. If this is the kind of history and mythology you want more of, subscribe. We're building both. A like helps more than you'd think. And if you've got thoughts, corrections, or something you'd rather we cover next, the comments are genuinely read. This is our second video in this series. Tell us if it worked.